Sane's sensational record. In his Friday press conference, Pep Guardiola was again asked about comparisons between Leroy Sane and Ryan Giggs. "He's much better, but he's still not Ryan Giggs," was the City manager's initial assessment, but then the caveat came. He was comparing the Sane of now with peak era Giggs. It's how they'd compare as 23-year-olds that would be important. He might not be classic Giggs yet, but this was another indication that Sane is well on his way to being one of the Premier League's great wingers and perhaps one of world football's best. In an era when the natural winger is a dying breed, often cutting in and linking play in different ways, the German is a throwback. A left-footer on the left whose starting position usually means he has chalk, or whatever they use to paint the lines these days, on his boots. It's remarkable to think that the summer and the start of the season brought a few questions over Sane. His exclusion from the Germany squad in the World Cup was a surprise, and he was sent a message by Guardiola when he was left out of the City squad against Newcastle early in the campaign. He's responded in some style, and on current form he's a winger with the world at his feet. It's now 8 goals and 9 assists in 15 Premier League starts this season, and Sane is increasingly becoming one of City's most dangerous weapons. Fernandinho. There's been plenty of discussion recently about who City are going to target to replace Fernandinho. The 33-year-old's workload has been heavy this season, and his absence through injury over Christmas coincided with those shock defeats to Crystal Palace and Leicester City. Huddersfield 0-3 Man City reaction ratings. How we marked City's players as it happened. Our live coverage from the John Smith Stadium report. On the Whistle report on City's victory pictures. Images from City's comprehensive win reaction. Sane on Pep's halftime team talk. But while the chat tends to be about how City missed the Brazilian when he's absent and lack a viable alternative to Standing, they also struggle for a replacement when he has one of his rare off days. That arrived against Huddersfield. Fernandinho was poor in the hour he spent on the pitch and was hooked for David Silva just after the third goal. By that point the game was won, and City could afford to mix it up in midfield, with Ilkay, Gundogan and Kevin De Bruyne sharing the defensive responsibilites. How to win a penalty. Raheem Sterling was livid when Andre Marriner waved away his appeal for a penalty in the first quarter of an hour, and you could see why. It was one of the more remarkable decisions of this Premier League season. Mohamed Salah has rightly been criticised for his diving spree lately, with the effort against Crystal Palace on Saturday an embarrassment, but you can see why the Egyptian is doing his best to highlight contact when the officials are this bad. Sterling's touch took him beyond Terence Kongolo before he was wiped out, with Marriner directly behind it and his linesman looking straight across at it. Somehow, between them, they decided it wasn't a penalty. There's no excuse for officiating that bad. The power of goals. There were some startling stats doing the rounds before this game about the difference in firepower between Huddersfield and City. It was 19 goals in the last 3 games for City, taking in just 15 days. It had taken Huddersfield 337 days to rack up as many. This was a complete mismatch on paper, but then Premier League games aren't played on paper. It took a while for City to make their class pay, but they got there in the end. It's some run this side are on. Since Roberto Firmino's equalizer for Liverpool at the Etihad on January 3, City have now hit 23 goals without conceding. That's spectacular, whatever the opposition. The opener against Huddersfield was City's 100th in all competitions this season. You'd fancy them to add plenty more in 2 more cup clashes this week. Huddersfield Town v Man City. Pictures from the Blues Premier League clash match at the John Smith Stadium View Gallery. Mahrez's latest blow after a bright start to his City career. It's been something of a struggle for Riyad Mahrez of late, and his absence from the matchday squad at the John Smith Stadium was another blow to his standing at the club. The winger was an unused substitute in the comfortable romp against Wolves on Monday night, but any hopes he had that might mean he was in for an appearance against the Terriers were quashed by his exclusion, with Guardiola opting for 3 central midfielders on the bench in Phil Foden, Bernardo Silva and David Silva. Mahrez might find himself back on cup duty this week, perhaps against Burton Albion on Wednesday night, but almost certainly against Burnley in the FA Cup 4th round on Saturday. But the £60 million man looks to have fallen comfortably behind Raheem Sterling and Leroy Sane in the pecking order for City.